Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Lucky.
My name is Shaneka.
And today we're going to be talking about 5 things you need to know before you start wedding planning. Number 0.5 is find the person you're going to get married to first. Yeah? Before you start planning your wedding. Yeah?
That would help.
Find that person first. Yeah? At least know that there's somebody there. Don't go and plan a wedding with. And then plan everything and then just carry the man, put him there, say marry me.
What if it's a man who was planned and he's carried a woman?
So it's not that. Even if it's that way as well, yeah? Plan it together. Don't plan it yourself. Yeah? Bring your ideas or your desires and then put it together. But these are the 5 things we think are important when planning a wedding. But 1,
know your budget. Okay, now sometimes what can happen is, you know, you get engaged, you get excited and you start running away with things, but actually you need to know how much are we willing to spend on this wedding. Do you know what I mean? And whatever figure you give yourself, that is your budget. Okay, so you might say, I don't want to spend more than 10k. That's your budget. You might not want to spend more than 20. That's your budget. You might not want to spend more than a couple £100. That's your budget. Yeah, so it's really important to just know that before you get carried away, because then you will also know what things you can and you can't afford, etc. So quite quick and easy, I would say.
And one thing I would say is that before you do your budget, don't just say budget. You also need to try and understand what the prices of things are before you create your budget. You can't just say our budget is going to be £10,000 and then you want something that's worth £5,000. You need to also be informed about what things actually cost. Speak to people that are already married before, or speak to your family members who are married, and or go to wedding fairs or things like that, so that you just have an idea of how much wedding do cost. Yeah, it can be expensive and it also can be cheap. Depends on what your taste is. So just have a look at the prices of things. Number 2, which can also impact the number 1 a lot, is know the amount of people you want to invite. Yeah, if you have some people that want to invite the whole community, you also know that your budget must also stretch as well. So the people you usually have most likely dictates your budget, because you have to feed them, you have to buy drinks for them in most cases. So it also affects the venue that you do acquire. So things like that are things you have to consider. For us, we actually had like a general number which we wanted to go with, and we were plus or minus 50 of that number, so which was really good for us. We were able to stick around that, and so in a way also impacted our budget. So think about your guest list.
So number 3, which is actually really important but under discussed or undermined, is think about the season that you want to get married. And the reason I say this is for 2 reasons. Number 1, because I said this before I got married, but no one wants to get married in the winter. No one does. Who wants to do that? It's cold. Guess who got married in the winter? I did. I didn't want to do that. It was cold. But it's fine, you know. But yeah, that's something just to think about in terms of like time of year, because don't forget, getting married in the summer, where we're in the UK especially, we have unpredictable summers. You might choose to get married unintentionally on the hottest day of the year. That's not going to be comfortable.
That'd be
true. You get it? No. Who wants to be sweating on their wedding? Like, especially if you're a woman and you're wearing makeup. Nobody wants that. So anyway, there's those things to think about as well. But another reason why you need to think about the season is because different types of year, because basically one venue can cost different price points at different types of year. So it's kind of like traveling, you know, there's peak and there's off peak. So booking your wedding between, I think it's April to September is usually the peak season for weddings, and then when you do your wedding outside of that time, it's off peak, so obviously it's going to be cheaper. But then within the peak season they have like tiers, so to speak. So the summer months are like super expensive, and then the April and the September time is a little bit cheaper. So it's really important just to think about that. I know some people, for example, they, not necessarily here, but like in Africa, they tend to do their weddings in December, and that's because for them, they know that family members will be able to come. So yeah, when you think about your wedding, do just try and think about what else is happening at that time of year, and if it is a time where the people who you want to be there would be able to make it. So.
That is so true. Yeah, definitely key to understand the season where you're getting married. As we just said, that in Africa, weddings tend to be around December, January. For example, in Nigeria, December, January times are the dry season. So from like April to October, it's going to be raining, and that could really affect your wedding. But January, November, December, January, it can be pretty much dry. So it's got a lot of wedding around that time. Again, I would say that is the peak time for weddings in Nigeria.
Sure.
Especially when you're having an outdoor wedding.
Yeah. Which is absolutely lovely. And that's another thing to think about as well. If you're someone that always did want an outdoor wedding, don't bring people to your wedding in November. Don't do that, please.
Good.
Please. I don't know where you come from, but most people don't like to be outside at that time of year, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know we got married in November, but it wasn't an outdoor wedding. You didn't really need to be outside for that long.
Exactly.
That being said, some people do like that kind of November, December, Christmassy vibe for their weddings, depending on the pictures they want. But also, like, I bought this lovely white fairy jacket thing that I wore on my wedding and stuff like that. So that's another reason why I just think about when you're getting married, because if I was just silly and I wasn't thinking about that, I would have been outside with goosebumps trying to take pictures, etc. But because I bought that, I'm thinking, okay, it's November, it's going to be called this, that and the other. It enabled me to come prepared but still look wedding ready. So that is something to think about, I would say.
Yes. Oh yes.
Okie doke. So next you need to think about, what kind of style wedding would you like? / what location are you into? Because certain styles go well in particular locations, right? If you want like a rustic type wedding, you want to see those, what are they even called? Those hay? Those stacks of hay and those things. Don't think about getting married in a city, because you ain't going to see that in a city. Do you get it? So you're going to be kind of going out of the city into the country for your wedding. Certain people, their style of their wedding, they kind of want a nice country house or a manor house. Again, that's likely to be located outside of main cities. You might be someone, you want a modern type wedding, you know, and therefore you're more likely to think about having your wedding location in the city. So that is something that you need to think about, because that can help guide your search when you're looking for venues, etc. When we do these sort of videos, like 5 things XYZ, what we're trying to do is just help you streamline the process. Yeah, so when you think about that, instead of first looking at everything and then being like, oh, actually this is what I want, and of course you might be in that situation and that's fine, but if you already know what you want, it helps you to say, okay, I need to look at weddings in this particular areas or with this particular style, etc. Like, yeah.
One thing I was going to add with location is, how are your people going to get to your venue?
Say it again?
How are your people going to get to your wedding venue?
Yeah.
If your wedding is in a bush that nobody can get to, you have to consider, at least think about it, and think about the people that are coming. If there's a way for people to get there through public transport, fine. But if it's in a place like maybe half an hour to an hour away from the train station, you have to please think about it. Maybe consider going to like a country house where people can actually stay there. Exactly,
because a lot of people, they do think, okay, because it is so far, at least if it's got capacity for people to stay there or accommodation, then I know that that's a less stress, and you know, people can enjoy the wedding for longer instead of rushing to go home and stuff. But then again, if you think that people are willing to come regardless of where it is, then that's fine, do that. But just know your guest list, your audience. But at the end of the day, it's your wedding, so if that's what you want to do it, but just consider. Yeah, I think weddings are interesting because it's like, as much as possible you want to enjoy the day, but at the same time you don't want to make it difficult for your guests. Yeah, you don't want people to be complaining about your wedding before they even get there. So I'm just saying, yeah.
Still a beautiful day. And the number 5 and the last thing that we'll just say that you should look out is also, if you're a Christian, where do you want to get married in? You want to get married in a church, or do you want to get married at the registry? So
even if you're not a Christian, some people just like to get married in a church.
Even if you're not a Christian, you want to get married in a church, the traditional way, or in the registry center, which is fine. You just have to decide what is best for you. For us, for example, we wanted to get married in a church, so we did the process that needed to, in order for us to be married in a Church of England church, and that was really nice. Really liked the atmosphere of the church.
Can I just add though, this really links in with the previous step. Reason being, if you want to get married in a church, there's certain requirements, and I'll probably just let you add on that. But what I would say is that if you, let's say you want to get married outside of London and you don't live in that area, chances are you won't be able to get married in a church. So that's also just something, you know, these 2 points do go together quite closely. So I'll let you know.
I think that's also key as well. If you want to get married, for example, you live in London, you want to go get married in Manchester, you might find it a bit difficult to find a church, especially if you don't already reside there, you don't have family connection to the church in that area.
Because of the legalities around getting married in the church.
It's just a thing that they have in the UK. Or maybe if you know a church that you go to over there that you like, that you want to get married in, you can also speak to the pastors there. Maybe they could help you. But legally, in the UK, if you're going to marry in the Catholic Church or the Church of England, you need to be
living in that parish
or attending that church. So look into that as well. Do you want to get married in a church or in a registry? If it's a registry as well, if your wedding again is in a different location, you may have to pay the registry person to come to your location to facilitate your wedding. So also think about that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the 5 things that we think are important for you to think about before planning your wedding. So we've got your budget, yeah, that's important. Your guest list, that's important. Your season that you're getting married in, your location / the style of your wedding, and then the registry or church. So yeah, those are our simple 5 tips that we've given.
And these are the big things and the important things. There's so much more to wedding planning. We've got other videos about wedding planning, so feel free to watch them.
Yes.
But once you know these things, then the other things will come, yeah?
Oh yes. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. Do share, like, and subscribe. I hope you
and comment. We love to hear from you guys.
Thank you. Please comment. And, yeah, if you have somebody that's planning to get married, please do share it to them. It might be useful to them. Yeah, follow us on our Instagram page at LUSH Osaro. Thank you. Until next time, take care.
All the best with your wedding.
Bye bye. Find the man before you start planning.
Find the girl before you start planning.